Welcome to the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. Everybody, welcome back to the show. We are the Reschool'd podcast, so it discusses all the things that schools may not have prepared you for. I just rambled on that one. That's pretty interesting. As always, I'm AJ, and sitting across from me, Jason. Jason, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great, AJ. Just had to make a second trip to the school this morning. Apparently,
good or bad?
You know, we have these conversations every morning about, hey, well, get your clothes on. We've laid out some things, and then obviously, the girls have their own opinion, so they end up wearing something else. Put on a certain pair of boots this morning to walk to school, and I get a email from the teacher not long afterwards that so-and-so has a blister and needs another pair of shoes. So I had to make my way back down to the school. So the morning's off to an interesting start. How about you? How's your morning going?
It's going. We're done with school, so I don't have to worry about that right now for this semester. But it's going. We had a similar situation with school. One of my youngest daughter was getting bullied, and my wife is the more level-headed. Let's take care of it the appropriate way. So she called the school and let them know what was going on. And about a week went past, and we hadn't heard anything. But then, lately, my daughter came back and she's like, "Well, she's still doing it." And at that moment, I was like, "It's Daddy's turn. We're going to do it Daddy's way." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "If somebody bullies you, if you're getting physically bullied," I said, "you're gonna have to stand up for yourself, and we're not gonna, you're not gonna get pushed over." And she's like, "I'm gonna get in trouble." I said, "Well, I'll sit next to you in the principal's office if you get in trouble. I promise." So yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know if it's the time or what, if it's just the age, but the drama, man, it just gets going.
That's rough. I'm dreading that period. I haven't quite gotten there with my girls yet, but I know it's coming. I mean, every kid gets bullied, but some kids get bullied worse than others, particularly when they become a target for the bully or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way as you. You go through the proper channels, and if that doesn't work, well, then you go visit the parent themselves. Then if that doesn't at all work, then your kid has to stand up for themselves. That's all it is to it. They can't. I mean, because that has lifelong repercussions.
Yeah, it does.
Were you ever bullied as a kid?
A couple times. I fortunately have my mom's mouth, so my mouth got me out of a lot of stuff. There's a couple times where I'd have to. Things got a little physical, but yeah, I wasn't. I was always a bigger kid, but I had friends who were like big, and they would get bullied on, and I would usually step up and go to bat for them. I just couldn't stand people bullying people, period. So, it was just one of those things that don't mess with me or my friends. So,
sure.
It was tough learning, but it was good learning experience.
The bullying comes in different forms too. So I wasn't physically bullied growing up, even though I was a smaller guy, but I was picked on at different times a lot. Particularly, I told you I had attention issues really badly. And some group of guys just locked onto that and made fun of me, and the bad part is it got started by my teacher, right? Wow. It was my teacher that picked on me about not being able to pay attention and stuff and nicknamed me, Foggy. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, some of these kids just ran with it. And then for like 2 years, I was the butt of so many jokes, and I had such a strong accent as a kid. Obviously, you hear I've got a strong accent now, but as a kid, it was way stronger. I mean, it was very, very distinctive, if you will, and I got picked on about that a lot. So it does. It happens to just about everybody, and you'll develop complexes about it, and it'll hurt your confidence when otherwise that should be a time when you're building it up and stuff. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for the process. Sometimes it makes you want to just run right through it and say, no, this is going to stop now. I'm not going to let it have the negative repercussions on my kids. Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was off on a tangent because we're not talking anything about that today.
But we should. We should have an episode on bullying.
Well, today's episode, we're going to be talking okay, go ahead.
Before we jump into what we're talking about today is I got to remind everybody, hit us up on our website, send us a message through social media. Either way is a good way to reach us. We're going through a lot of your listener comments now, trying to answer some of the questions you pose to us. So keep those coming. They make for great episodes. And if they're not full episodes, we'll just shoot you a message back and talk to you about it. But we bring it up lots of times in episodes. So thank you for that. And of course, on your favorite social media app where you're getting your podcast, you got to give us those stars because that's helping us grow and we appreciate it. So
absolutely. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about dorm room etiquette. Dorm room is one of those things that a lot of college students are going through, have to go through sometimes, depending on what college you're going to. And so we figured it'd probably be a good idea to talk about etiquette within a dorm room because most likely you're going to have a roommate.
Oh, man. Now, did you live in the dorms?
Well, it's just interesting. The first quick question is, were you a dorm room dweller? I was not. I didn't live in a dorm room. But I was there quite a bit. I stayed, pretty much in dorm rooms a lot because that's where a lot of my friends were.
You understand the life then. It's a different thing.
It is.
So
it's very.
And so I was in the dorm my first year. And the second year, I was very close with some folks who did the on-campus resident housing, but it wasn't the dorm. See, at my college, we had these older houses that were kind of standalone, and they used those as dorms. So it still had that same feel, but it was way more, way more like a house, right? It was, you felt like you at least had more autonomy there because you didn't have the same level of supervision and stuff like that, but there were still a lot of rules and stuff like that. So I at least feel like I got a broad experience when it comes to on-campus living and things like that. So it's different. It is definitely different.
And dorms are different just in general because you have the one unit, 2 people living in it, so it's just like a common room and that's it. Then you also have the singular rooms with a common area, almost like an apartment style. Those are luxurious, but it is. You're right. It is unique. Well, actually, matter of fact, let's get into the main topic. So because that's the first question: what's unique about living in a dorm? Like what? How is it different than, obviously we know living with your parents, that's completely different, but living in an apartment, those kind of things. What is it like living in a dorm?
Well, you hit on the first point before you get into, the more like this is what life is like type things. Just the structure of the space that you're living in is a lot different. Everybody thinks of it as being very similar to an apartment, but really it's not. It's this commune style of living. Oftentimes you have a roommate, but then you have suite mates as well. So they'll give you a little room. Sometimes it'll have separate beds. Sometimes it'll have bunk beds, things like that. But there'll be this common area with bathrooms or kitchen, things like that. Ours didn't have a kitchen or anything like that. We just had these little small pottish type rooms off this center portion. In the center portion, there was really nothing but a TV and a couple of chairs where people sat around and played video games all the time. And then there were a couple of bathrooms in there with showers in them on each side. But some of these dorm rooms are nicer now, right? They have kitchenettes in them, full refrigerators. Sometimes they even have like an extra room in there where they'll throw stuff like a foosball table and stuff like that. I think it all depends on the resources of the college you attend.
Yeah, for sure. That's
the
big
thing. Fancy private school, it's going to have a lot.
And that's a selling point for a lot of schools too. Is the dorms if you're bringing out of staters or people that are going to come in and live in the dorms. You're going to want that the amenities for dorms have grown significantly since even the times where we were going through college.
I'm not going to lie. I don't like it. I don't think dorm rooms should be that posh. You think
they should go through it?
Well, it's not even about going through it because it's not that difficult, but it's just that same kind of theory about everybody wears a uniform, but it's not. So, you give the really posh dorm rooms and stuff like that. It creates this level of separation, right? But if you give everybody just this bare bones, you're in a, very austere environment, you can bring your stuff in to soften it up a little bit, but the reason you're there is just, to focus on your school and whatnot. I don't know. I don't think having this posh style of dorm room is necessary. For what it's worth, people are there to learn. You really shouldn't be spending that much time in your dorm room anyway. It's comfortable enough. Yeah, I just, of course, I say this, I was in the Army, and it surprised me how nice the barracks were for soldiers. And I
Really?
had the same opinion. I'm like, this isn't like what it used to be. During training, I stayed in old barracks and stuff like that. And it is just like a college dorm room, or the old school college dorm room, cement block, group shower bathroom type scenario. But you go into the barracks now, it's just way nicer. It's like a nice little apartment with just a couple of people stay in a room. And something about that's it's too soft.
Yeah.
So,
I could see that. That's the interesting thing too, like you were talking about the uniqueness. When you have those luxurious things, there isn't as much, like the weight of stuff isn't as heavy. And when I say weight of stuff, I mean your personal stuff, because if you're in a small dorm room, you can't carry everything with you. Like, you can't bring your house with you. You're sleeping on a twin size, cot. And you're bringing very limited stuff. And now you're bringing like I said, you're bringing your whole house. More distractions.
Exactly. I didn't even like that we had video games out in the common area that people sat around and played. When I was in college, it was Tiger Woods golf and GoldenEye were the two big ones. Yes. People sat around and played those all the time. I never played any of them, right? I didn't care one bit.
Oh, me neither. Never. No, never. Me, no.
Yeah, I don't believe that. So, but, it was just, like I say, it was a distraction. And honestly, I'll tell you, the most content probably I've ever been is when I was extremely organized and didn't have much to think about in terms of this extraneous stuff. I'm an equipment nerd. I like stuff that can do stuff. So even now, given the opportunity, people can't see the room I'm recording in, but I mean, it's a full-scale studio, is it not?
Yeah, it is. You got green screen behind you.
Yeah, I got green screen. I got mics everywhere. I got, several cameras. I got, tons of audio gear. It's just lights, lots of lights. It's just, I love this stuff, but it's just a distraction. Honestly, it takes away from actually what I should be focused on, and that's creating something, right? They are tools in the process, but I get a little too wrapped up in the tools. And same way with, loading yourself up with stuff in your dorm room. You can have all the accessories for studying and whatever, but if you don't use it, really all you need is you do need computer access, obviously. But I mean, if you've got a table and a computer and a pad and pen, that is about all you need to be successful in the learning environment. Everything else, you're just trying to make it easier on yourself. So,
I would dare say too, though, that like with the pen and paper, computer access, whatever, let's go to the next one, the pros and cons. Because one of the cons that I always think about when I was, over at the dorms, hanging out, whatever, is there is very, very little quiet time, quiet space to really kind of be able to study. I mean, you always had to go to like the library or something to get any kind of studying done with effectiveness and efficiency.
Mm-hmm. I was a library rat. I never studied in my room. That just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. What are some other pros and cons you can think of?
Well, in terms of pros of the dorm, first I got to say the culture and meeting people. Getting to see people, basically build their life. They stepped out of their parents' home oftentimes, and they're living alone for the first time. Obviously, that's not true for everyone, but it's true for so many people, and they're living unto themselves, even though they have friends around them, but they're truly becoming who they are, like what their living style is going to be like. That was honestly one of the most formative parts of my college experience, because living in my parents' home, I had my routines. I had the way I grew up and going to college, just everything was changing. I had to develop my own life and way of living. And it happened there in that cinder block room, right? I mean, I had to manage my food because I had a little refrigerator and stuff in there, but there's always the cafeteria and stuff like that where you could eat, but you manage your food, your snacks, uh, doing your laundry. Of course, I did a lot of my laundry growing up anyway, but my mom was still did most of it. She
Mhm.
just was very good for like that. She was very thoughtful and helpful to me. Uh, but it's just a change, and everything from cleaning the bathroom, right? I mean,
Yeah.
scrubbing the shower, cleaning the sinks, washing the toothpaste out. None of these things are done for you anymore. You just develop who you are in terms of the way you live, and then the people you're interacting around. You see them developing at the same time. You influence each other, and just I don't know. That's that culture aspect of it. That self becoming, if you will, is a huge part of dorm life, and yeah, that's one of those huge pros. I don't know. What do you think? What do you see as a pro or a con, whichever one you want to throw out there?
My biggest pro by far, and one of the reasons why I spent a lot of time in the dorms is you kind of said it, meeting people, the culture, those kind of things, but you're in the thick of everything. Like anything that's being planned, you're there. You don't have to go somewhere. You don't have to change clothes. Like if there's a party happening, you don't have to go take a shower. You go to somebody's house to take a shower and come back. You can do everything right there. I mean, you're right there in the thick of everything. And I can't tell you how many times gatherings were started on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like they were planned out weeks in ahead. It was just like, hey, we're having a get together tonight. And being there, I mean, you're there. It's easy. That was a huge pro for me.
You're a very social person, so did you like being around other people all the time like that?
That's why I stayed at the dorms as much as I did. It's just because the interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I lived all except 1 year. I lived with my parents in college, in
Mm-hmm.
my undergrad, but I stayed out. Like I didn't. I mean, I pretty much for a good portion of the time I only slept at my parents' house, and I usually didn't get in until way past midnight
Mm-hmm.
because we were always doing something, and so I loved it. Now, granted, I could have a very skewed or biased opinion simply because I didn't have to deal with it when I slept there. But the interaction while I was awake, yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Now, it's probably the reasons why my grades weren't so great, but it is what it is.
Sure. Well, so that is it. That goes into that whole culture thing. You're discovering who you are, that type of thing. And another pro I would say about the dorm in that regard is, so say the alternative. Say your parents don't live in a town and you're not living at home anymore and that doesn't continue. Well, your other option is to move into an apartment or a house with somebody else. Or God, if you're rich, could afford to rent a house. That seems crazy to me. But,
Especially now.
You rent a place, right? That's a lot to handle on your own. Now, it could be that your parents still handle part of that stuff for you. But part of it in college was, I saw my parents a couple times that year after they dropped me off. Right. And it was just everything about the experience was figure this out on your own, do it on your own. You're developing your entire life. If I would have been dropped off in an apartment, it would have been more. It would have been more to think about. Everything from, all right, well, I need to pay my rent every month. I need to pay the utility bills. I need to make certain my place is clean and tidied. I need to, some scenarios you even have to keep up the public area, right? The outside, or mow the lawn or something like that. And all of that comes in addition to everything you have to do to manage life in school. So the dorms in a certain way make it simple because a lot of that stuff is handled for you, right? The common areas are generally kept up. The security, right? There's somebody checking you in and out. You can feel relatively secure there. The hours of operations, when you can come in and out and when you can bring people in and not. You have to sign guests in and stuff like that. So again, there's some level of accountability. There tends to be cameras in the common areas for security and safety. There's rules there that keep you in line, right? That, hey, if they see open alcohol bottles or anything like that in the in the dorm rooms, you'll get called out on it, right? That will get confiscated, and you could be kicked out of the dorms or fined. We were fined for a couple of things, not alcohol related, but our etiquette didn't live up to their standards in some ways. So
it was a learning experience for them too.
Yeah, there you go. So, there's this control aspect there that it kind of just lets you focus on what's important, which is the educational element and the self-development element, just by dipping your toes in the water. So,
sure.
I graduated from the dorms to living on my own after that. Actually, I lived with folks the entire time. I had, 2 roommates in the beginning, and then 1 roommate for the remainder of my college experience. But, and that was in apartments off campus. So it kind of, I don't know, it's like a stepping stone into, oh, this is real life, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I appreciated the dorm for that. It was a big pro. Can you think about any other things you saw that would?
I mean, I think I brought it up. It's just as much as you're always in the thick of things, the con is you're always in the thick of things. Like if you needed that time. So it is that kind of the trade-off that could definitely affect you in a positive and a negative way. For first year students, and I can almost guess what your answer is going to be, but for a first year student, would you recommend living in the dorm?
Oh yeah, definitely. I talked about pros that also could be cons there, but college is something that's supposed to broaden your horizons. There's a saying in Spanish, si quiere conocer a Andrés, vive con él un mes. If you want to know Andre, live with him a year, right? Or excuse me, a month. And when you live with a very diverse group of people that are thrown together, we have that tendency towards, psychologically, we have that tendency towards fit. We look for people who are similar to us. So later on in life, we hang out with people that have similar interests, that type of thing, or similar backgrounds or some other level of commonality, because it makes us feel more understood and comfortable. In college, you don't get that, right? In the dorms, I mean, you don't get that. You're assigned roommates. You're assigned locations in the dorm. You get to meet such a diverse group of people, and you have to live around them all the time. And so you're thrown into this community. And if college truly is this place that exposes you, that gives you different viewpoints, an understanding of different ways of life, different cultures, just makes your ability to think clearer, broader, more in tune, promotes mindfulness, then the dorm experience is a huge part of that. It is probably as impactful with regard to your way of thinking and how open you are to accepting others as what you experience in the classroom. So on level footing, it's part of that educational experience. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Now, does it make sense for everybody? No, maybe not. Maybe people don't need it. Maybe you're a non-traditional student. Maybe you're like you and your parents are right there. And, the savings of being able to live at home in terms of food and cost of the apartment or dorm, it outweighs everything else, right? You're able to save that money and the resources go way further. Well, it's not going to be perfect for everyone, right? You have to do what's best for you. But for the average traditional student coming out of high school, particularly when you're coming a long way from home, yes, dorm life is absolutely a positive thing. I think it's amazing, and some people it works for them to stay more years, right? To even perhaps become a resident assistant. We call them RAs, and they kind of oversee the floors in future years because they have experience in dorm life and living, and they're able to shepherd other new students through that process very well. And they have to be the enforcer of rules, right? Make certain there's no activity that's prohibited going on in the rooms and things like that, right? So anyway, I highly recommend.
So. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. There are points of warning that I would give. If you're somebody that is set in your ways and it's your way or the highway, you're going to have issues because, like you said, you're going to be coming into a room with a cast of people that you may not agree with in some way, maybe their habits, their philosophy, whatever. It could be different than you, and you will probably get a little frustrated, as much as they will probably get a little bit of frustration with you. It is a learning experience, and it's a learning experience in how to work well with others, how to live around others. I do think it's very advantageous, but again, it can, especially if you have a short fuse, it can be really painful. Lack of better words. So I just, you need to be aware what you're going into before you make the decision of going. And a lot of colleges, you may not have the decision. Like first year, you're going to have to.
Yeah,
you got to go.
That's becoming increasingly common, right? But college justified just on what we just said as part of the learning experience.
Yeah.
But there will definitely be conflict with camaraderie.
Ooh, you ain't kidding.
There is no doubt about it. So, but again, part of the learning experience, how you deal with it. I mean, this past semester, right? There's a student in my class. I know he's got a ton of potential. Going to do fine in life. But he was so combative, so conflictive, so loud, so argumentative. He has so much social maturing to do. And you can so see that so much of that came from, at home, his environment, probably when it met with school, he felt like he had to throw up his dukes and be combative, right, and argumentative and things like that. And that developed into his personality, and that was during a 6-hour school day. Well, now he's stepping into a thing where he's living around these people he's sitting in class with, and he's going to have to tone it down, or he's going to find himself where people don't want to be around him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's too much. And I think he starts to realize that maybe I don't need to be that defensive. Maybe I don't need to be that combative. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the person who's meek, meager, and really doesn't know how to interact with people very well, they start to develop that part of their personalities as well. Not just, I'll be around you for a few hours a day when I'm in the classroom, but now, hey, I'm building a life around other people. I know how to manage my time. I know how to interact socially. I know how to be empathetic, to listen, all those things, right? The social learning that goes with just being around other people. So, yeah, I mean, definitely recommend, highly recommend, actually. Now, I don't know that every year that's the best option, right? I think there is a gradual stepping to you build that autonomy towards life afterwards. So I do recommend eventually making the move towards an apartment with a roommate or on your own, depending on how expensive things are in the area where you live, right? On your own may not ever be an option, particularly if you're in a bigger city. But yeah, you make that transition and learn how to manage life in that way.
Well, this being a tips and tricks episode, I think it'd be great for us to just end the episode with a few tips or tricks for people going into, or maybe even living in the dorms now, but going into the dorms. So do you have any?
Yeah. One, go into it with an approach that I would say is empathetic. Try to listen more than you talk. Then you will get off on the right foot with the people you are around. Now, your true personality is always going to come out. There's no doubt about that. Nobody can cover up their true personality for that long. I'm one of the world's worst, right? It's not very long before people know exactly who I am. But starting off, just listening and doing your best to understand other people first will put you in a place that endears you in a way that will truly be the foundation for the relationship, right? Because lots of times personalities conflict, but if personalities start off on the right foot, right, then they can actually cohesively conflict, if you will. They can get along. Everybody's got that friend that nobody can stand, but they're your friend, right? You understand them, right? They understand you, and that's just life. Right?
Yeah, you give a lot of grace. So, one of my tips would be to go ahead when you get in there, go ahead and kind of establish expectations with your roommate. Don't assume that they live like you. Don't assume that they are going to, if you're somebody that's very tidy, that they're also going to be very tidy. Or if you're somebody that's not very tidy, then they're going to be accepting of your, untidiness. Go ahead and get that established and get it out of the way. So that way, like I said, there's no assumptions. You go into it with, okay, here's the expectations for me, here's the expectations for you. And it's kind of that you give respect by doing what is expected of you, and they will reciprocate it. I'm not a big fan of the you have to give respect to get respect kind of thing, or you have to get respect to give respect. If that was the case, then nobody would ever get respect, because somebody has to do it to begin with. And why does it have to be somebody else? So it's just a working together. That was one of the big things. Like when I had my roommate, we lived in a house, but I had my roommate, and we kind of got that established early. So that helped a lot. So that would be probably my first tip, just to kind of ease possible future conflicts. Go ahead and get expectations set early.
That makes sense. My next one would, my next one is probably goes to organization in life again. So in college, you're going to need to be efficient. You've got a lot of things to do. You got to develop as a person. You got to have fun. You've got to learn. You've got to interact, all these things. Making the most of your time starts with being organized. Getting the most out of the experience, making it worth it, means you approach it in a certain manner. So if you're going to be organized, the jumping off point is your living arrangement, your living situation. Luckily, the dorm gives you a lot of that. It gives you a lot of structure. It gives you some rules. So like I talked about before, it's a stepping stone from, living at home with your parents to living out on your own individually. Start by building from that structure that they give you, that this is the time when the cafeteria is open. This is the time when your classes start, and this is how far your dorm is away from your classes. So this is where you keep your resources. This is how you manage your daily life. The dorm plays a huge part of that. At the end of the semester, you have to move out of the dorms for the holidays. You have to, for the summers, you don't get to, usually, most places, you don't get to continue living in the dorms. You have to plan that portion of your life, but the dorm life adds such structure to everything that, once again, that's a great starting point. So there's my tip. Use the structure that dorm life provides to as a jumping off point for structuring the rest of your life, the rest of the college experience.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was actually going to bring that up in probably the pros a few minutes ago. It's just the fact that they have that structure that they assist you with. They don't force you to do a lot of stuff. They offer it for you. And I think that's such a good thing to take advantage of if you're a student. My last tip would be, I think you mentioned it earlier, take it as part of the learning experience that you're getting from college. Like it's just like a class that you go to. You're learning stuff. You're learning how to be around people. You're learning how to, that was probably one of the first times in my life, obviously, because I'm coming from living with my parents, growing up and living with my parents, where my mom does quite a bit for me. My dad does quite a bit for me. I still had, chores and responsibilities and stuff, but I wasn't on my own. And then I moved into a roommate situation where my parents weren't there, and all of these responsibilities fell on me. You really start to learn what it's like to be in a situation where one day, if it's in your plans and your cards that you want to get married, you really start to learn what it's like to be in a house and have to do responsibility, have to complete responsibilities and get stuff done and clean and that kind of stuff. And it could really show you what type of person you're going to be and what things you need to change. I was never one that did dishes, and I quickly had to learn other than, if they piled up a mile high, You start playing Tetris or Jenga, and whoever dropped them all had to wash them all.
And you run out of dishes in the cupboard.
Yeah, you start just eating off of paper towels. But it's those kind of things. Like, it's a learning experience, and if you go into it with that mentality, it's open mind. Hey, I'm not the best. I'm not perfect. There are things that I need to learn, and this is going to kind of identify it for me. You'll come out of the other side a better person. No doubt. And that's ultimately, again, what you're trying to do at college is you're trying to learn, grow, and come out a better person. So that would be my last tip.
Awesome. Well, that's really all I've got in terms of tips.
Cool.
I do want to, if we're going to wind this up, I do want to remind everybody, hey, don't forget to reach out to us. Again, our website's the best spot, but the social media apps, they're pretty good too. And of course, continue giving us those thumbs up on your favorite podcasting app, because again, we're trying to spread the word, but you're the way we got to do it. So you got to tell other people.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. We hope to see you next time. Until then, goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschool'd podcast. Be sure to head over to reschool'd.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.